Our next speaker is Mr. Pete McEvoy, who is Vice President for Administration Associated Universities, Inc. The title of his presentation is Behavior Changes for Sustainability. Pete McEvoy is the Vice President for Administration at Associated Universities, Inc., AUI, which collaborates with the scientific community and research sponsors to plan, build, and operate cutting-edge facilities, and is most well known for the radio astronomy facilities it manages. AUI's most significant single project is the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array, which cost $1.4 billion to build and is comprised of 66 transportable 100-ton and up to 2 feet wide antennas distributed over an area 11 miles in diameter at an altitude of 16,500 feet in northern Chile. Pete was part of the team that received the largest cooperative agreement ever awarded by the National Science Foundation, a new 10-year, $862 million agreement for their continued operation of the National Radio Astronomy Observatory. Pete joined AUI in 2013 after 11 years managing administrative and facilities for the 2 premier telescopes of the Gemini Observatory located in Chile and Hawaii. He has a master's degree in industrial relations and is also a certified facilities manager of the International Facility Management Association. We crossed paths a few years ago at a NSF large facility meeting where he gave a very impressive overview of the Gemini activities. So we're pleased to have him here today to talk on his latest projects. Pete.
Thank you very much, Dean Corliss, and thank you very much to the Graduate School and to the UNOLS office for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here and thrilled with the quality of the presentations that we've had so far this morning. I must admit, when John Alberts contacted me to invite me along today, I did scratch my head a little bit, and green boats and observatory facilities, what do we have in common? I started thinking, well, waves, but actually it reminded me of an occasion I had when I spoke with the president of the National Union of Mine Workers in the UK, who had been invited to speak at the British Dental Association's annual conference. And he began by saying how much he was looking forward to the chat, bearing in mind that both were involved in the extractive industries. So, but clearly we are all involved, but many of us are involved in the management and administration of research and scientific facilities on a large scale. And ultimately, all of us are involved clearly in the quest for sustainability, be that environmental sustainability, or in the broader context, social sustainability and economic sustainability. This is our ALMA project in Chile. Those antennas there are about 90 feet wide. 66 of them move around the desert. If you're interested, there's a good clip about these on 60 Minutes. There we've got the beautiful southern sky in Chile on a long exposure. This story begins in Chile, where I was recruited to the Gemini management team back in 2002, and I left it in 2013. And this is actually going to relate a lot to the implementation of the behavior change as regards sustainability at the observatory there. Actually, I came along thinking about sustainability today, but looking at hearing the talks about resilience reminded me of another important link. My birthday is the 26th of February. About 2:30 in the morning on the 27th of February 2010, I went to sleep, and an hour later we woke up with a magnitude 9 earthquake, which tested our resilience, so to speak. And I remember at the end of that day, when power had been restored, falling to sleep as in Hawaii over there, people were waiting for the arrival of the tsunami, which by that time we knew it wasn't going to be a tsunami. In fact, my spillage of coffee in the in the break room there just now was probably more significant. But CNN made a lot of it that day, for certain. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program that we introduced at Gemini, which got some gained some attention. These are the facilities of the Gemini Observatory. The top part of the screen refers to Gemini North. The bottom part of the screen refers to Gemini South. A couple of minor points of explanation. Although they are Gemini refers to twin telescopes, one looking at the northern sky, one looking at the southern sky. You'll see that the square foot associated with the southern telescope is bigger than that, or more significant than that in Hawaii, and that's because of environmental constraints on Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is about 4,000 meters high on the big island of Hawaii. Here in Cerro Pachon in the Chilean Andes, it's a slightly lower altitude. The offices in Hawaii, in Hilo, Hawaii, are slightly larger than the ones in Gemini South. And in terms of our energy consumptions, it was the telescopes that sucked the greatest amount of energy, more so than the base facilities. And if we looked at the costs, you will see from those figures that the cost of energy was significantly higher in Hawaii than elsewhere. So we started not because of a need to cut costs, but actually part of a general program that we had focused on creating positive improvements in the organization through behavior change. Back in 2009, we set up a blog on sustainability issues. This followed a lot of communications internally, supported by the director. And we were really looking at ways in which we could make an impact on the observatory in terms of our sustainable practices, energy efficiency, etc. Most of the ideas that came through that blog in its initial phase came from Gemini North, and that's simply because in Hawaii, everyone is very focused on sustainability. It's an idea far more ingrained in the local culture there than it is in the fourth region of Chile, where Gemini South is based. Of the ideas that came forward, the science staff were those that led in terms of different ideas on how to improve our sustainability. We were surprised that we didn't get more ideas initially from engineering. And when we looked at the type of change that people were putting forward, it was interesting. Some people just had general ideas about how to manage this process. Referred to a number of ideas there as sort of miscellaneous ideas. But it was very noticeable that almost 60% of the ideas that were put forward by people were focused on let's do things differently rather than let's install smarter machinery. And that was a key part of the ethos of this change throughout the life of the initiative down there in Gemini. And I say that actually continues to today. So obviously we set up a structure to manage this. Committee was formed, non-hierarchical, people from across the university, across the observatory that wanted to contribute to these ideas were fully integrated and encouraged to be involved. They reviewed our trends in each one of the areas where we had measurements month on month, year on year. And they wrote, that's all the observatories, all the employees of the observatory contributed to our green mission, which was really helped explain why we were doing this. So that was something not written by senior management and handed down, but something which everybody contributed to. So I'm going to run through some of the initiatives that we were involved in. Air conditioning clearly is a major consumer of electricity at sites like that. But I want to refer to one example where we had what I call the double whammy effect, whereby when you're focused on sustainability issues, you're focused on doing things better, and occasionally things pop up which don't just save you money, actually from the focus that you're committed to, helps you just run the operation better. Well, in these large domes that surround our telescope mirrors, these are optical telescope mirrors that are about 26 feet wide. When you have a telescope mirror temperature, which is greater than the dome air temperature, because of the refraction, of the light waves, you end up with a blurring effect, which you don't want on telescopes costing millions of dollars, clearly. So the idea is that when you open the telescopes in the evening, that the temperature within the telescope is the same temperature as that outside. And then the telescope's open, cool air comes in, and you don't get turbulence at the beginning of the night, and you get optimal seeing immediately, which is very important. Well, we focused on what was that point, and what was the forecasting, and how good was it. And in fact, we found out by just concentrating on energy efficiency, we were actually able to make sure that the telescope improved its seeing, which is the principal reason for being there in the first place. But it's a good example. In terms of printer and computer efficiency, nothing new there. We basically just wanted to discourage printer use. We asked people clearly not to print large jobs. We went around the observatory on more than one occasion, noting down what things were installed, what things were plugged in and working when they really didn't need to be. And we had a very intensive and invigorating conversation with employees, and they amongst themselves, in terms of making sure that people were just turning things off when they needed to. And as far as transportation went, this was another area where by focusing on sustainability, we were able to improve our other objectives as well. We had lots of people traveling up and down to the mountains from the base facilities. It's about 60 miles difference between them on a fairly regular basis. And quite often there was a problem, would be in a car and off to the mountain. Those are dangerous roads. We had many vehicles in the early life of the observatory that turned over. We had no deaths, but we were very lucky in the early days. And we subsequently had a total sea change with that, and through behavior change went for many years without any accident whatsoever. But by focusing again on energy and getting people to work together, we had fewer vehicles making fewer trips and improving the safety of the people in the observatory as well. We also offered employees who were interested in helping us with garden maintenance. They used we offered up some bicycles to them, but obviously I'm joking. Travel is very important to astronomers. There's a lot of international travel that goes on. If you bear in mind that we were based in Chile and Hawaii, it was, and we worked through, we had a concept of 2 telescopes but 1 observatory. It was important to the organization, but again here, not for cost saving, but from a concept of accountability, and from a concept of being responsible stakeholders paid with public funds ultimately. We looked at what we were doing and decided that we would reduce the amount that we spent on travel. And through a lot of peer pressure, individuals really worked at using virtual technologies, etc., to achieve what they wanted to achieve, rather than be traveling to a lot of these conferences, etc. Anytime anyone went to any particular, was interested in going to any particular venue, they actually were told what their current CO2 footprint was, how much that it would cost in terms of CO2, them going to where they were going, and people were engaged in this process. And year on year, once we started doing this, and this continues to this day, the carbon footprint associated with travel dropped. Recycling, we already had a very strong recycling program in Hawaii based upon the factors that I've told you earlier, but we moved that forward and created a lot of recycling containers and a system to support that in Chile. We did a lot of green cleaning improvements, and really got our janitorial staff involved in a practical way in the minute detail of their activities and how they could actually support this. And that was very good. It's great when you can involve your janitorial staff and they can see the link between what they're doing and the overall mission of your organization, and we were privileged to have that opportunity there. We did the classical get rid of disposable cups. We did that immediately, and actually people volunteered to bring in old cups from home, and we stocked out the place with people's second-hand cups, and we put stickers on them to promote what we were doing, rather than actually print out new, or buy mugs with our new green logo on them. We obviously got the utility, particularly the electricity companies, involved in what we were doing, and they come up with some very good ideas. We did the classic KISS, Keep It Simple Stupid initiatives, whereby we reduced the number of lamps that were lit when the lights went on, which actually the astronomers were really pleased with. They were used to working in low light conditions at night, and in fact they were so grateful when we started to dim the lights. They were still acceptable as within the facilities, and clearly we had motion sensors placed around. One of the things that we did as well, we were lucky in Chile, for example, our building there was built on a nice bluff just above the Pacific, and particularly in the summer, we could just simply open up the doors and we were great thermal flushing of the facility, and that avoided people coming in and immediately just switching on air conditioning, and it was actually very, very agreeable. So again, simple initiatives. We've since introduced greater efficiency in the data energy, in the data area. We've got an intelligent green system for the HVAC. We installed the second highest plant of solar panels on our facility in Mauna Kea. One in Tibet is slightly higher than that one. Unfortunately, because of the reduced footprint that we have to work within on Mauna Kea, we could only impact 10% of the facility's electricity. In fact, shortly they're now rolling this out in the same initiative in Chile, but we don't have the same constraints there. It'll actually be a much larger solar farm that will reduce the energy specifically, or significantly. So I talked about the importance of being clear about the link between sustainability goals and your overall working culture. And Gemini developed a very strong working culture in the time when I was there. And I arrived at the end of the construction phase, 2002, as we moved into operations. And it was very important. We developed this working culture document, and it's got a number of pledges there. And I suppose the sustainability project was most focused on that particular goal, which is about taking responsibility and accountability for our actions. But it's very important to think of these initiatives in a broader context and the contribution that you're making. And as I tell my teenage kids, there are ways about making change, and some of them are more productive than others. Also, it's very important in these type of circumstances to lead by example, to show commitment. And that was done by the senior management team at the observatory. It's very important to do that and to lead from the front. So obviously what we want to do by concentrating the attention in that way is to get people to really believe and to be invested in these changes rather than feeling obliged to go along with something because it's the latest fad or whatever. Spend the time explaining and getting contributions from all of the employees as to why this is a valuable way forward. And what you'll do is you'll get compliance which is voluntary, and people will be really looking forward to investing their time and energy in these sorts of initiatives, and they will want to continue with these trends. And if senior management backs off, if you've really installed this well, the employees will keep moving the momentum forward. When we look at different ways about bringing about behavior change within organizations, there are a number of methodologies that are very focused on, okay, we need to improve our processes, we need to have more predictability within our processes. If we look at lean management, quality management systems, there's an awful lot of good work focused on what I would say is making improvements on the left-hand side of this slide. But really, what I liked about the experience that we had at Gemini was really getting people to be creative in their own jobs, really giving them the freedom to come up with ideas which shook us up a little bit. I really think that the greatest gains are to be found when we promote creativity and innovation. And people ended up being able to vote on ideas as to which ideas had greater priority. And we took a lot from that. So there's a big difference between just simple participation and engagement. and the minimum that you should be looking for is engagement. Participation is just taking part in something, but clearly engagement is about attracting and occupying people's attention and binding and having people bound to these ideas almost as via a pledge. Employee engagement is clearly part of some of the global models associated with environmental management and quality management systems from ISO 1400, ISO 2600, and the British Standards Institute also has a strong focus on inclusivity as a key stewardship principle associated with these models. And also in terms of the quality management system, which back up a lot of these changes, we have ISO 10018 focused on getting people involved and increasing their competency in certain areas to apply knowledges and skills to get the result that you're looking for. So there's a lot of formality associated with these ideas, and employees need to be considered like any other stakeholder when you're going through these change processes. You need to evaluate readiness, you need to state the desired outcomes, work with people on fine-tuning those outcomes. You will find resistance, but the idea is to diagnose that resistance, be open to that resistance and work with it. And clearly as you're going along, you need to evaluate the actions. A number of the actions that we came up with just came up from ground level people putting forward their contributions. And I use that, this map here from the Institute of Building Efficiency. It's basically saying what we did organically was something which ultimately ties in very well with models like this. What this model in terms of employee involvement does is talk about how you can, through acknowledgement and team activities, communication, education and training, make a big difference there. And we did that with lead audits, and we did that through certifications in facility management for key people. We're about to finish. These are statements from a survey, what workers want, and you can see there, people were asked, all other things being equal, I would take a 15% pay cut if. And 35% said they would be prepared to work for less, to work for a company committed to corporate social responsibility. 45% said they would take a pay cut to work in a job that made a positive social or environmental impact. And 58% said they would take a pay cut to work for an organization with values like their own. And these are very important. Clearly what we want to be trying to do is to stimulate creativity within our organizations. That is where we have the biggest opportunity for change. Think less about hierarchy, think more about a network of individuals and a network of ideas and people working hard together on that. I genuinely believe that leadership is about trying to make the number of decisions by senior management as few as possible. That's our challenge. Top leaders should make fewer decisions. I actually think that we get the biggest change by creating a real sense of significance in a person's work. There's a great book by Gary Hamel called What Matters Now, and related to the private sector, he talks about let's make meaning, not make money. But actually, if you put meaning in organizations, your organizations will, without a shadow of doubt, become more successful. So the theory is that we have the environmental, the social and economic rings of sustainability intertwined. The reality is we're focused much more on the economic side, taking the lead. And I simply put it out there that in order to make a difference and move towards genuinely more concentric circles where we've got things in balance, we really have to focus on understanding behavior change and working on that every single day. Thank you.